Right. So we're running with getting started with Google Analytics today. Google Analytics is the web's most popular website statistics program. It's been around in one form or another since 2004 or 2005. It was actually previously called Urchin Analytics, and Google bought it out in 2005, and since then have continued to grow it and enhance it. It started off as a purely website analytics program and has grown into a much more full-featured system that is useful for tracking statistics in apps, for e-commerce conversions, advertising optimization. You can track subdomains, you can track all sorts of things in there now. It's by far and away the most popular website analytics program out there. And if you are interested in spending money on Google Ads, spending money on online advertising campaigns of any type. Oh, okay, Dan. Well, I'll try and email it to you again later. That's a bit strange. I'll try and save it to an earlier Excel format and send you another copy of it, or I'll zip it up first, all right? Where was I? Oh, yeah. So if you're spending money on any sort of online advertising at all, or even print advertising, and you want to measure the impact on your website traffic and the return on investment of that sort of advertising, then Google Analytics can be used pretty effectively to do that sort of thing. And I guess at its basic level, it allows you to understand who is using your website, how people find your website, and what it is that they're actually doing on your website. Now, obviously, it's up to you to decide what to do with that data, and it's probably beyond the scope of this introductory workshop. This workshop is really just to get you to understand what analytics is and what sort of information you can get out of it. We could perhaps have a subsequent workshop on what to do with the information. So why do you want to use it? You want to find out how people find your website. I think there's some joy to be had with building a new website and thinking that perhaps someone out there on the internet finds it interesting enough to pop in and have a visit and read what you've got to say. But how they actually find you sometimes can be a bit of a problem, and Google Analytics will give you a good insight into that. It'll let you track how your website users actually move around the site, how they use it, how they interact with it. It will allow you to understand where your users are, and by geographically, what sort of devices they're using, what time of the day they're using it. In some cases, whether they're male, whether they're female, what their age is, what their interests are, and all that sort of stuff. It can give you a remarkably large amount of information about the people that are using your website. You can then choose to use that information to perhaps optimize the overall design of your website, but more typically to optimize landing pages and things like that, to understand how users are using particular pages, and then craft the page to capitalize on that behavior. And for me, at least, the primary benefit that I've got out of this tool over the years is to maximize my ROI on ad spend. For me, it's Google Ads or AdWords. But if you're doing sort of good old-fashioned advertising in magazines and you're providing URLs in those magazines, you can track the impact there. If you're doing social media marketing campaigns, you can track the effect from there as well. So you can't get started with Google Analytics without installing it. That's sort of the basic way that you go about it. You need a Google account. I have people here that I haven't spoken to before. I strongly encourage every business to have a centralized Google account for the business. Oh, that's good, Dan. Thanks for letting me know. I encourage everyone to have a centralized Google account for the business, and ideally that shouldn't be your own personal Google account. And in the case of Google Analytics, make that the administrator of your Google Analytics account. You to sign up, you simply go to that URL that you can see in front of you there, analytics.google.com. And this is a bit of terminology here, but the first step is to create what's called a property, and we'll define what that is in the next slide. Enter a website name, a URL. For whatever reason, they want to know what industry category or segment that you're in. Once you've done all of that, they'll create this UAID, which is of that format there. And you'll need to know that, especially if you're using any sort of standardized content management system. Oh, okay, Kat. So I have a Gmail account for my name called marknemstis@gmail.com, and that's my personal Gmail account. For our coin business, we have a Gmail account associated with an email called sales@thepurplepenny.com. They're two different Google accounts. Okay. So for all of our Purple Penny stuff, it's all associated with that sales@thepurplepenny account. And, you know, for us, that manages our Google ads. You need to create a separate property for every website, Wendy. Okay. And if you haven't already done that, what you need to do is create a different view for each website under each property. So you can create a filter under each view to view data. Anyway, we'll go into that. So yeah, you can sort that out, that's for sure. So you think that Google doesn't like info at. Okay, we need a Google Accounts workshop, people. So we'll see about doing that. Anyway, you need a Google account. I always advise that every business has its own Google account and it's separate from your own personal Google account. And that's risk mitigation. Okay, so Gmail is a Google account effectively. That's risk mitigation. Create a business Google account, add someone else as administrator to that account so that if you get hit by the proverbial bus, someone can recover the business information. If it's associated with your personal Google account and no one else can get into that, then you know you're in trouble if something bad happens. So head over to analytics.google.com, sign up for a property. You'll get that UA code. Now, the next step there is to install tracking code on your website. It used to be back in the day you needed a developer to do that, to insert some JavaScript on your website. If you're using any sort of common content management system, then there'll almost certainly be either built-in integration for Google Analytics, or you can do it via a plugin or an app. WordPress, most popular CMS in the world, you'll generally do it via a plugin, where you have to do it via a plugin. Those are the two most common plugins that people do it with, Yoast and Google Analytics Dashboard. In both cases, they either need you to install that UAID or to actually do an online authorization to your Google account. It'll work one way or the other. So that's WordPress. If you're using Wix, Wix has a built-in marketing integration that supports Google Analytics, and it's available via the marketing integration screen. You click on the Google Analytics button there, and it'll ask you to enter UAID, and then it'll just start working. Okay, it's pretty simple. Squarespace is pretty similar. There's some instructions there. You just enter UAID again, and Google Analytics will be installed. If you're using some other content management system, and you'll notice for Wix and Squarespace, I haven't provided a URL. That's because if you just do a Google search for Google Analytics Squarespace, Google Analytics Wix, Google Analytics Weebly, Google Analytics, Crazy Domains, all of those content management systems have an online help article that explains how to do this. Most popular analytics system in the world, content management systems want to support it. So get on to some terminology. So these are things that don't necessarily make sense right now, but if you sign up for your Google Analytics account, they'll start to make sense. As I said, when you first sign up to Google Analytics, you'll have to create your first property. And a property is basically a Google Analytics thing that takes data from one or more websites. Okay, so if you install the same Google Analytics code with that same UID across multiple websites, all of that data will get fed into one property. And that sounds like what Wendy's got. Okay. Under each property, you have views. And a view is a window into all or a subset of the property's data. So generally, when you set up the website for the first time, it creates a default view, and that view views all of the data across all of the websites that you happen to be using. You've got it on 2 websites, but third is fine, so you need to review. You've probably got the 2 websites on the same property. So you need to create a new property, add one of the websites to the new property, and install new tracking code on that website. That default view that views all of the data, you can then, it will differentiate between the websites. Yeah. You can then create subsequent views using what's called filters, and filters allow you to view subsets of the data that is being fed into that property. So in Wendy's case, she could actually create 2 views with a filter on one to view the data from website 1 and a filter on another to view the data from website 2. Okay, but you could do it better than that. You could have one view specifically for mobile data. And by mobile data, I mean people who access your site from a tablet or phone. And then another view for desktop data. So they're the people that view it from, this computer here. You could have a view that is specific to a subdomain. So does everyone here know what a subdomain is? Sort of. Kat says, waving a hand. The Polaris website is www.polaris.com.au, I think. We could create perhaps a dedicated resources site that's full of forms and things like that. And we could call it resources.polaris.com.au. Okay, and then we could track the analytics data separately from the subdomain and the main domain using 2 different views. If you don't want to do that, you could track a subfolder. So what does that mean? We could have all of our resources in, thanks Mike, Mike knows our URL, polariscenter.com.au. We could have all of our resources in polariscenter.com.au/resources. And then we could just track the data from that subfolder. So it's quite fine-grained. Most people just use the default view, which allows you to see everything. We've talked about views. We talked about properties. A dashboard is a visualization tool that Google Analytics allow you to build. You can select from a range of widgets, charts, pie charts, graphs, line charts, top 10 lists, top 5 lists. You can grab the ones that you want, drag them onto a dedicated dashboard and view just the information that you want to see. So for one website that we have where we publish advertising, we have a dedicated advertising dashboard built where we can see click-through rate, we can see revenue per click, we can see revenue per 1,000 impressions, all these things that are specific to what we're interested in. Are you right in assuming that Google Analytics can't be used with business social media pages? So the trouble with social media is that they hide usually their referrals behind encrypted links. So for Facebook, for example, you can't tell what Facebook page is sending referrals to your website. And that's not Google Analytics problem, that's Facebook doing it. And LinkedIn's the same. Now, why they do it, I don't really know, but that's why. Okay, does that make sense, Tammy? You can certainly track the traffic from your Facebook page. Even when you embed a link in a Facebook post, Facebook changes the format of that link to one of their internal links, and you can't tell what post it's come from when people end up on your web page. So again, that's a Facebook thing, not a Google Analytics thing. Isn't there an analytic opportunities with Facebook and LinkedIn that tracks it? I don't know, Kat. I don't know what that means. I'll have to talk to you afterwards about that. So these dashboards are an easy way of building a specific, easy to understand, data-driven view of what you're interested in. So if you're interested in Google Ads landing pages, you might have widgets built up looking at your Google Ads performance. If you're looking at perhaps data-driven from social media pages and the landing pages, you might have data built up around that. And then there's these other terms down the bottom here: bounce, session, page view, and bounce rate. And they're things that you'll see through all of the Google reports that we look at as we drill down a bit further. So a bounce is what's called a single page session. So that's if I do a Google search and I find a link in the Google search results, I click on it, I land on your page, I read what you've got to offer and decide that that's of no use to me, and I navigate away from your website straight away. Or not straight away, but within an amount of time. That's called a bounce. A session is a series of interactions with your website across a space of time. And by default, Google Analytics defines a session as the interactions with your website until you're idle for 30 minutes. So that means if I go to your home page and then look at your products page, and then I don't interact again with your website for 30 minutes, that counts as one session. Okay, so that means that if I look at your website, go to your services page, go out to lunch for 30 minutes, come back and do something else, that's 2 sessions because I've been idle for 30 minutes in between there. So a session, one user, me as a user, can have multiple sessions on a website in a day if I'm idle for that 30-minute session. Page view is basically the load of a page. So if I go to your home page, that counts as a page view. If I navigate to your services page, that's another page view. If I navigate back to your home page, that's another page view. So that's three page views. And the last one there is bounce rate. Bounce rate is the number of one-page sessions or bounces divided by the total number of sessions. And there's some thought that a lower bounce rate is better because it means that your website is sticky. And by sticky, I mean that people look at more than one page, which I guess hopefully means that your site is really interesting, but it could mean that your site is just really difficult to navigate and no one can find what they want. So this is the basics of the user interface. We'll just actually have a look at that. So this is a Google Analytics account, and I do advise, there is a mobile app and a mobile version of Analytics, but I do advise in just about every case that you do it from a desktop computer. The mobile app and the mobile interface are a very cut down selection of the functionality that's available, and you really need to do it from a computer to sort of see everything that's available. So down the left hand side, we've got all of these sections. We've got home, and home is home. That's just basically the default set of data that you're going to see. You've got customization, and that's where you can define these dashboards that we've already talked about. Once you get into analytics a bit further, you can create custom reports. If you want to save a report for August, for example, you can save that data into there. Otherwise, you've got to go back and reset your date ranges and things like that. And you can also use it to create custom alerts. And alerts are things like perhaps your daily users goes over 100 users a day. Your traffic is rocketing up, or perhaps it goes under 100 users a day. Or perhaps you haven't had a goal conversion before 12 o'clock. Perhaps your page load speed has gone above 5 seconds. These are all things that people that are interested in managing their website actively would want to know. We have an alert set on one of our websites because 4 or 5 times a year we get some media coverage of the website, and the traffic tends to go from sort of 1,000, 1,500 users a day to 5 or 10,000 a day, and often that means we just need to monitor the server and make sure that everything's working okay. We don't want the website to fall over when we're getting all that traffic. Real time is an interesting one. This has only appeared in the last few years. Real time actually gives you feedback on who's on your website right now, what they're doing, where they're from, and how they found it. So on this website now, we've got 7 active users. Looks like 6 of them are on desktop computers, 6 of them are on mobile devices, phones, and 1 of them's on a tablet. And we can see what pages they're actually active on, and we can see how many users we've had per minute in the last 30 minutes. Pretty interesting stuff. We can watch sales happen. So you can sit here, if you sit here long enough, you'll watch sales happen and checkouts happen and things like that. Again, for us, we use this to monitor traffic load. We also use it to make sure that shopping carts are working, that forms are working, that events we've set up are working properly. Just below the real time, we get into our reports, and we'll just jump back to the presentation to look at those reports areas. There's 4 report areas, and this is the way to think about them. Audience. The audience reports tell you, I guess, who is using your website, the characteristics of who is using your website, where they are, what devices they're using, you know, all of that sort of stuff. This is where you're going to find demographics and interests and ages and genders and even income levels and things like that in there. Acquisition reports tell you how people found your website. So where are they coming from? Are they finding you in an organic search, or are they coming from another website? Behavior allows you to understand how people are using your website. So how long they're spending on the website, what pages they're looking at, how they're moving around the website, what user interface elements they're interacting with on the website, so how they're using the website. And then there's this last one, which most people in my experience don't use, is goals, which is giving you some indication of whether the website is performing the way that you want it to perform. So are the targets that you want being met? Now, we'll just jump back to the user interface, and you'll get some idea of how many reports are buried away under here. So if, for example, you look at audience, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 reports at that level. And then we've got all of these sub-levels under here. So you're probably talking 35 to 40 reports just in the audience area. And then, you know, a similar number of reports in the other areas as well. So I think a lot of the reason why people get into using Google Analytics and then stop using it fairly quickly is information overload. I guess not understanding what they're seeing, not understanding how that can help them improve the performance of their website, and not understanding how that data can help them achieve the goals that their website should have. If anyone here has been to any of my digital marketing workshops before, every website needs to have a goal. And Google Analytics is the way that you can track that you're achieving that goal. And that goal might be phone calls, it might be leads generated, it might be appointments made, it might be sales. It might just simply be people sitting there reading your content. It could be people clicking your ads. Who really knows? Every website needs to have a goal. Google Analytics is how you can track whether you are meeting those goals or not. So we'll look at, I think, 5 reports. If you're going to get into Google Analytics, these are the 5 reports that you need to know. We'll run through each one, and I'll give you a quick rundown of the user interface as to how you can manipulate those reports, such as setting date ranges and data grouping and filters and things like that, just to give you some idea of the power that's there for you. So report number 1, mobile overview. So this is almost invariably how most businesses should be thinking about their website, how it looks on this. Because for most businesses, this is how it is looked at by most people. And the mobile overview report will tell you that. So this is the mobile overview report for one of our websites from, I don't know, the last couple of months. And you can see there that we get 64% of our traffic from desktop computers. Oh no, I'm looking at the wrong segment. 50% from desktop computers and 50% from mobiles and tablets. So at least half of our traffic is coming from mobiles and tablets. For a lot of websites, it's usually more like 80%. So, you know, for us, when we're creating pages on our website, we spend about half the time looking at the new design in this view. We spend as much time thinking about what our menu structure is on the mobile phone as to what it is on the desktop computer. And, you know, in a lot of regards, getting it working well on a mobile phone is a lot harder because there's a lot less real estate. You know, on the website, we can have beautiful menus right across the top of the screen and drop down items and, you know, doesn't matter. But on the phone, it's much more challenging. So we use our analytics reports to understand what pages people are interested in, and then we put those pages into our mobile menu items. So we know that our popular pages are available on mobile devices. And other pages that people don't care about, then we'll bury them somewhere or put them in a footer or just not make them available except via a search engine, via the search engine on the site. Channels. This is the report that tells you how people are finding your site. And just FYI, the last slide there, I've got the audience mobile overview. That's how you actually reach the report in Google Analytics. Click on the audience report section, then click on mobile, and then click on overview. Okay. This next report, channels, click on acquisition, all traffic, and then channels. So we'll jump and actually have a look at this report and we'll give you some idea of how the user interface works. So acquisition, all traffic, channels. So at the moment, the default report time frame is 7 days. We've got it set up to the top right-hand side over here. We can just pick a longer report range by selecting a longer date range. So now we're seeing the acquisition to our site by day over all days since the beginning of April. If we want, we can now group it by week. Or if you're running reports for longer ranges, you can group it by month. So that can be really useful to get an understanding of long-term trends. If you're looking at really noisy data, it's hard to understand what's going on. But sometimes if you run the report for a whole year and then group the data by week, it becomes obvious that things are going up or going down. Down in the bottom section here, we get an idea of how people are finding our website. And Google Analytics typically tracks five traffic sources, and the 5 traffic sources are organic traffic, and organic traffic is traffic via Google searches. Direct traffic, that's people who type your URL directly into the address bar or click on a favorite button or click on a favorite link. Social, that's referrals from social networks, and that can be Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, LinkedIn, any number of social networks. Referral is referrals from other websites. So someone has clicked on a link on another website and then come to our website from there. And then paid search is Google Ads. Okay. You're then able to see some basic statistics on those. So we've got users, so that's distinct. I guess you could call them distinct people, but in reality, it's distinct computers, if you like. And then new users, And so of that 10,484 users that we've had from organic search, 9,733 of them are new users, and we've had 19,684 sessions. So that means that every computer that comes to our website has about 2 sessions. That's 2 of those 30-minute sessions that we talked about. The behavior gives you an idea of what the bounce rate is, pages per session, and average session duration. So hopefully they make sense now. Everyone remembers what the bounce rate is. 53% of the people that come from organic traffic only look at 1 page. That's what that means. But the average pages per session is 3.5. So that means the people that do hang around look at quite a few pages, and they spend around about 2 minutes and 50 seconds looking around. Give you some idea of how you can drill down now. We can go down and look at organic traffic and then get better ideas of what keywords people are using. If we want to go and look at referrals, we can actually look at the websites that people are coming from. So there's all the websites that we've had referrals from across that period. So we could examine that, look at heck, the traffic from drakesterling.com, that's got fantastic engagement. Maybe we should approach them for a paid advertising opportunity and get more traffic from them. Or perhaps our e-commerce conversion rate is better from them. This is the sort of information that you can glean from this. And we'll just have a look at the social one because that's always interesting just to see what social networks are available. Wi-Fi is working beautifully, Mike. So Facebook, Pinterest, YouTube, Instagram, and Reddit. So that's the social networks that we've had referrals from in the last couple of months. Right, next report. Landing pages available from behavior. Hang on a second. Behavior, site content, landing pages. And this gives you an idea of what pages are the most popular first pages that people look at. So when someone enters your site, the landing pages are the first page that they land on. And typically, what page is that going to be for most websites? It's going to be the home page. In the case of this website, the home page is the most popular by about double. Interestingly, though, you could look at, say, the new sessions on our home page. It's 34%. So that means that people that land on this website, 34% of the home page landings are new visitors. But for our newly listed items, it's only 10%. What does that mean? It probably means that we have a whole bunch of repeat visitors that are always looking at our newly listed items. What are the new products that we have available? Are there any bargains? That's what we can glean from that. Key report number 4, navigation summary. This is a really neat report. It gives you a really good idea of how people are moving around your site. So when they land on your home page, where did they come from? And it's actually worthwhile just having a look at this report. Behavior, site content, all pages, nav summary. So we just go to behavior, site content, all pages, and navigation summary, which is the tab up the top here. And basically what we're looking at here is a page by page analysis of how people entered a page and how people left the page. So at the moment, we've got it set to, if you see current selection here, we've got it set to /. That / is your home page. On every website, / is your home page. So we're now looking at our home page, and then below that, we can see that 71.4% of the traffic to our home page are site entrances. So that means people are landing on our home page. They're coming from somewhere else out there on the internet and landing on our home page. And 28.59% are coming to our homepage from somewhere else on our website. 71% from out there on the internet, 20% from somewhere else out there on the website. When they've finished looking at our homepage, where do they go next? Well, 20% of them disappear. So 20% of them go off into the internet somewhere, wherever that is. That's an exit. But 80% of them go somewhere else on our website. Then it's super interesting down below to actually look at where people go. Now, why is this interesting? If you've got a booking page and the booking page is there specifically to get bookings and that's a primary goal of your website, then either A, you want that booking form on your homepage, or you want that booking page to be the number one place where people go after they land on your homepage. And how do you improve that? You make sure that the menu is in the right place on the desktop computer and the mobile computer. If you've got a booking button on your page, you make sure that on a landing page for a desktop computer that it is at the bottom right, because that's how people's eyes move. They go in like a W pattern. That it's a contrasting color, that the landing page image is the right landing page image. I read a great article last week about a moving company, and they had a booking form, and above the booking form they had an image, and they used a stock image of some people packing boxes, and they replaced that with a picture of their actual staff doing actual things, so a real human image, and their bookings improved about 60% just by changing an image. And Google Analytics can be used to measure the impact of things like that. I have spent numerous hours testing orange buttons versus blue buttons, testing buttons on the left side of the screen versus the right side of the screen, moving a contact link from the top right of a mobile header to the top left of a mobile header. And Google Analytics is the only way really that you can test the impact of things like that. And you know, it sounds a bit silly, but if you can change the conversion rate of your homepage from 1% to 1.1%, that's a 10% improvement for the want of a new image or a change in color or a change in location or a change in words or something like that. Google Analytics is how you can drive those sorts of improvements. So back to this report here, we can look at previous page path. So this is where people came from somewhere else on our website. These are all the pages that they came from to land on our homepage. And where did they go after they left our homepage? They went to these other pages over here. And we can drill down into one of those pages and then we'll get a report for one of those pages. We can see how people got to there and where they went when they left. It's a really interesting report. And for key pages on your website, it's a report that you should be looking at least once a month to understand how people are finding it. So goals is, goals are the performance metrics that you want for the site yourself. So, you know, the obvious one for an e-commerce website is purchases. A checkout is a goal achievement. I can think of the goals that we've got set on our various websites. We've got account sign up for one of our software as a service websites. So an account sign up is a goal completion. For our try before you buy downloadable software, a trial download is a goal, but not just one download. We have 3 separate goals for 3 separate software versions. Each one of those is a goal. On one of our website, a phone call, so a click in a phone number on a mobile device is a goal completion for us. A form fill is a goal completion for us. These are all the things that we want from our websites. For you, it might be video views. It might be a contact form being filled in. It might be the download of a free resource or the download of a PDF document. Every website should have a goal. And if you want to know that your website's doing what you want it to do, then stick your goals in Google Analytics. The goal completion report tells you how you're going. And funnily enough, when I was doing this, putting this presentation together yesterday, if you look at this graph, you'll actually see that around about, on the wrong screen, around about there, our goal completion rate has gone down a lot. And if I'd checked this goal completion report more often, then I would have picked this up earlier. If we go and have a look at our goals here, and you can see sort of around about the beginning of June here, the goal completion rate has gone down. And if we look at our different goals that we are interested in, and for us, we've got 3 goals on this website. We've got purchases made, contact form fills, and phone calls. So they're the 3 types of goals that we're tracking. If we look at purchases made, then we'll find that that hasn't really changed very much. That's been pretty consistent all the way through. But if we have a look at contact form fills, it's pretty obvious that there's something wrong there. If we look at phone calls, then there's obviously something wrong there too. Now, we've still been getting contact form fills and we've still been getting phone calls from the website. So we know there's nothing wrong with that part of it. It's just that the goal tracking isn't working. So this is an indicator to me that there's something wrong with the website that we need to fix up, and that's what I'll be doing this weekend. Oh, where's my presentation gone? Right. So events and goal tracking, we talked about what goals are, but events are other things that you can track on your website. Events are how people interact with the website. So you might not perhaps set the contact form, navigation to a contact form as being a goal, but you might want to track the number of people that actually look at the contact form. So you could track that as an event. Adding a product to a cart could be an event. A page entry could be an event. Someone who's viewed 10 pages could be an event. Someone who's viewed a video could be an event. Perhaps these are things that, you know, they don't quite make the grade as a goal, but they're still interesting things to understand how people are using your website. In the events in Google Analytics are completely free form. It's up to you to decide how you want to classify them. On that website I was showing you before, we have a category of phone calls, form fills, and sales for events. And then we have a number of different events defined under each category. And then the actions that people take to trigger those events are different as well. They could be a click, they could be a scroll, they could be a navigation, whatever that is. We only track about sort of 7 or 8 things on the website, but it's really useful information for us. And then goals are what are, you know, you'd call them conversions rather than just people doing things that aren't necessarily going to win you more business. And there's a list of possible conversions that you can have there. Really, anything can be set up as a conversion. It's well worth sitting down and understanding what a conversion means to you and setting those things up in analytics and really measuring how things are working for you. There are a number of extensions available in Google Analytics, and there's some of the stuff that you can do. I talked about demographics and interests and wages and genders and things like that. That's not functionality that's switched on out of the box. It's something that you need to enable, and your site visitors will be able to opt out of it. That's something that's become available to site visitors in the last 12 months as part of the European, was it GDPRS or GPDRS or whatever it is. So people can opt out of that sort of stuff. It is, if you can switch it on, it's really interesting because it does tell you, I guess, in much more finely detailed terms, who is using your website. And that can be really useful if you're running ads, whether that be digital ads or print ads or whatever it happens to be. Another extension that people commonly use is the e-commerce extensions, and the e-commerce extensions work pretty much out of the box with all the popular e-commerce platforms that you can think of. So WooCommerce, Shopify, Wix stores, and all those sorts of things. And they'll allow you to track things like product to cart conversion rates, cart to checkout conversion rates, checkout to sale conversion rates, all that sort of stuff that e-commerce nerds are really interested in. We do e-commerce, but I don't track that stuff. It's just too much information for me, but I have looked at it and it is really cool what's there. And if you want to trial the effectiveness of different product images in your cart, then, or in your product listings, then that's how you do it. Is you turn on these e-commerce extensions, either track your, and we haven't spoken about experiments and we won't talk about them, but you could run one set of images for 1 month, run the other set of images for another month, and track the product detail to add to cart conversion rate. There is a system built into analytics called Content Experiments, where you can actually, at the same time, you have 2 versions of the same page, one with each group of images, and Google will automatically manage sending 50% of the traffic to option number 1 and 50% of the traffic to option number 2. And then it will perform what's called a chi-squared t-test and find you a statistically significant experimental result about which page performs better. And it's all built in. You don't have to understand statistics or anything. You can, as long as you can produce 2 versions of the same page, you can run those experiments to work out what performs better. If you're running Google Ads, you need to be doing this. You need to understand how to do this. If you're running Google Ads to send traffic to product pages, you want to make sure that that page is optimized, whether that be images or the add to cart button color or the add to cart button location or how it looks on mobile versus desktop, whatever that is. These content experiments, they're free. Okay, all they take is your time and your effort. And that's it. So we're 5 minutes early. I think I've overwhelmed everyone because we haven't had any questions today. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask them now. There's a couple of resource links there. That first one is Google Analytics Academy, and there's 6 or 7 courses. Yeah, sure, Kat, no worries. There's 6 or 7 courses in there that you can do, but will sort of take you from Google Analytics newbie through to Google Analytics legend. Certainly at least do the first one, which covers a lot of the material that we did today and has videos and quizzes and things like that, and it's well worth doing. There's also a getting started guide as part of Google's help function. Personally, I would go and do the Academy course. That would be the best thing to do. But the getting started guide will step you through how to install the Google Analytics on your website and then creating your first property and things like that. So I'll just post. Yes.
What's the difference between Google Analytics and My Analytics?
I don't know. What's My Analytics? I haven't heard of that one before.
Well, I've got it up on the screen.
Yeah. Do you want to put a link in? Is it Dan? Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do I do that?
Well, you should be able to just copy the URL from your browser address bar and then just paste it into the chat.
Oh yeah, okay.
Oh, okay. Something from Microsoft. Yeah, I don't know what that is. Everyone calls their data visualization tool some sort of analytics these days.
Yeah, okay.
So yeah, I'm not exactly sure what My Analytics from Microsoft is. There are even people who build on top of the Google Analytics platform and call it something or other analytics. So yeah, I'm not sure what that is.
Yeah, okay.
Any other questions? Who's overwhelmed?
Me. Yeah. But I'll read your notes afterwards
Yeah,
and go nice and slow, adjust my speed,
yeah, yeah,
figure out why the hell I can't get my website on there.
yeah. What sort of website is it, Dan?
Well, I don't know what sorts are there.
Is it a WordPress website or a
No,
no? What's your
it's not.
website? What's your website URL? What's your address?
Well, it's got two. It's made with Google um, Google My Business.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I don't
So
think you can. I don't think you can put it on there. Not as far as I know.
no, I can put the website on there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
No worries, Wendy. See you later.
it's got two.
By Cat.
See you, Cat.
It's got two US. Oh yeah, here you go. This is the one that I want to work.
Which one, Dan?
Well, the bottom one,
Oh, okay.
and you'll see that's a HTTP
Yes.
without
both.
the S.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tammy. Have a good night.
Thanks, Tammy. Yeah, that's a Google business site as well. Like I said, I don't think you can.
How can you tell?
I
Oh,
can
that's
just,
a Google
I,
business site.
I can just tell. I've seen lots of Google business sites before, and that's clearly a Google business site. They only have a very limited number of templates, and that's what they all look like. So you've linked it up. You've linked it up to your own domain, which is good. But like I said, I don't think you can put Google Analytics on a Google business site.
You can't put what?
I don't think you can put Google Analytics on a Google My Business site.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So, and I've tried that before, and perhaps it's changed in the last 6 months, but I don't believe that you can.
No. So, are you going to cover this off next week?
Cover what off?
How
to put it on Google My Business?
I think so.
Well, the thing is, I've got this site made with My Business, but I can't do much with it. And what I'm trying to decide is, should I give up and make a website with some other thing?
Look, my opinion is that every business needs a website, and a Google My Business website is better than nothing.
Yeah.
Because at least it gives you a footprint out there for people to find. But if you want to have much better control upon the look of the website and the function of it and the structure, and be able to add more content to it easily, track analytics and things like that, then you need to move to a more fully featured content management system. Thanks, Michaela. See ya.
Okay, what's the best for a simple site?
I'd probably suggest that you look at something like Wix or Squarespace.
Wix
or Squarespace, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And they will both work with analytics.
What about Google Sites?
Google Sites is Google Sites still a thing? I thought they were.
Yeah, I think so.
I thought they were end of lifing that. Google Sites is effectively Google My Business. It's just by another name, but for consumers rather than for business listings.
Right.
As far as I know, that won't work with Google Analytics either. I think it's got a basic analytics system built into it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no. Looks like Google Sites will work with Google Analytics. Well, at least it did at some point. No, Google Sites will work with analytics.
And which one's going to be the easiest for me to maintain, having to learn a thing?
Every content management system has a learning curve, Dan.
Yeah.
There's no getting around that. So I would suggest that you research those couple that I talked about and make sure that they've got the features that you want. Yeah, usually most of these content management systems have a free trial period or a free plan available.
Yeah.
and, you know, commit to spending a day on each and building a bit of a landing page, or, you know, what your homepage might look like. And then whichever one you feel more comfortable with, move ahead with that one.
And what was the Wix and what was the other one?
Squarespace.
Squared Space.
Squarespace.
Oh, SQUARE space.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Thanks, Owen.
So Paul says that they're making Google Sites classic, but still running with it. So that doesn't mean end of lifing it, but they're doing something pretty close to it. So
Yeah, I'll take your advice and steer
yeah.
clear of that and use Wix or Squarespace.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone else here has any opinions on Google Sites that they're happy to share. No worries, Arn. Thanks very much for coming along.
Now, Veronica's asking whether you're going to do something on Squarespace, Mark.
I'll be perfectly frank. I've never used Squarespace. I'll show you one of our good clients has used Squarespace for her website, and it's quite a good thing for like small business sites. It doesn't require any ongoing maintenance. The security and everything is taken care of for you. All of their templates are mobile friendly, and they have a number of free templates whose design model will fit a lot of businesses really well. And the same goes for Wix, actually. So I'm not favouring Wix over Squarespace. I'm just saying that both of them can build pretty effective sites. That
And both, what do they cost?
Usually anywhere from $10 to $25 a month. There's kind of no getting around it.
Yeah.
You got to pay something. Dan, you probably remember what Yellow Pages was,
Yeah.
and you know, people were quite happy to spend $1,000 or $2,000 a year on Yellow Pages ads, and and I think spending $200 or $300 a year on a website is pretty reasonable, really.
Yeah, fair enough.
All right.
Yep.
Now, what I found tonight, Mark, I was just having a little bit of a look at the Polaris analytics as you were going through that. So I think a couple of people said they'd watched the video again and just work through step by step. I thought that worked quite well for me, just finding the different suggestions that you made.
It is a pretty dense tool. And that's why we sort of focused on those five reports, because it can sort of get pretty overwhelming just understanding what it is that you're looking at.
Mm-hmm.
And you really will learn better by doing.
Yeah.
So, you know, get it on a website and start poking around at the data.
Okay, thanks very much.
Right. No worries, Dan.
All right.
No
thank you again, Mark. Excellent work. I think, yes, overwhelmed us, but with some really good tips. And
I try to keep it simple, I promise.
Got to remember, I'm coming from a very low base. So thank you, everybody, for participating. Keep your interest up in Polaris, and keep registering for those the different events. And any suggestions, let us know. The team will be sending out a survey as well. So
thanks, Alison. That's much appreciated.
That feedback is really appreciated. So if you can complete the survey when that's sent out. But thank you again, Mark, for your time and pulling together these wonderful workshops.
Pleasure, my pleasure. And like I said, we'll email out the YouTube link and the ones that I remember to press the record button on, Veronica, yes, they're on YouTube. The ones that I've forgotten to press the record button, no, they're not on YouTube. But as I redo the different workshops, hopefully I'll remember to press the record button next time. Yes, I'm very human. Very human.
See you later.
Extremely human.
See you,
Thanks,
Dan.
See you, Dan.
Bye, Alison.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank
Bye,
you.
Edith.
Thank you.